a personal reflection. Just finished my personal prayer time with the Lord. I'm laying here. I don't have to get up yet. I'm going to shortly. I was reflecting back on my time in seminary. We didn't have any classes on prayers. We didn't have any seminars on prayers. No one seemed to be concerned about it. No one seemed to care. And I spent 2 weeks, a couple times a year, one time a year and then a couple times a year, with other guys who were there and from all walks of life, ministers, missionaries, people aspiring to be. And I watched them all spend hours before the television set, before sports games. And I would see some of them take off to their rooms, close the door, have their devotional time. But the majority of them watch hours of television. And I spoke with these gentlemen, most of them, one-on-one, and I spoke with them and I asked them about their prayer life. I wanted to know how they prayed. I wanted to know how much time they spent with God. I wanted to know when they spoke with God. I wanted to learn from them. And most of them told me that they didn't have time to pray, that their lives were so busy with their being ministers and school and family that there was no time to pray. So I would ask them casually through other conversations about their off time and discover they spent hours before the television set. Sometimes they get home from work, a long day, and they would just sit there in front of the TV set for hours. And I thought to myself, if you would shut the bloody television set off, you would have time to pray. And I'm telling you right now that if you went home to your spouse and you ignored them completely, like you ignore God, they would divorce you in no time. And your lives would be miserable. If a minister says he doesn't have time to pray, he should be taken away from the pulpit. Because that person is giving you nothing but dead letters, dead words. If they don't spend time before God in prayer on a daily basis, there is a problem with the wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness of that pastor. If they're so busy that they can't pray, they need to be removed from office. Because you don't need somebody up there who's going to give you their religion, or worse yet, be a tool of Satan's and give you garbage from the pulpit. When was the last time you heard a really good sermon and you knew it was inspired by God? When was the last time you heard one? I'm not talking about these whimsical sermons that are heard and forgotten as soon as the sermon's over with. I'm not talking about one that was poured over for 4 or 5 days by the minister in his office, and he throws in all the relevant stuff from television, films, and all the garbage that society gives us so that they can have a relevant sermon. I'm talking about a real, prayed over, fasted over, talked with God before they even sat down to even get the sermon. When was the last time you heard one of those? When was the last time your pastor was real with God? When was the last time you prayed for your pastor? Prayed for him. Prayed for that he would have a greater personal prayer time with the Lord, and that the Lord would move through him. When was the last time you prayed for revival? Most revivals don't come from a pastor's prayer. Most revivals come from people who are nobodies. The sick, the lame, the aged, shut up in their own bedroom, shut up in their own house. Those are the ones that have stirred the Lord with constant prayer for revival, constant prayer for the minister. When was the last time that you prayed for your minister? I ask for prayer all the time because I see the devil working through ministers, through people in the congregation. I see him moving to get you to forget the sermon. It might be the slightest comment after the service is over with about the sale at Walmart's. Or did you hear about the sports team? Or whatever. Garbage conversation. After a sermon's been given, the conversation should be about the sermon, the Lord, your walk with God, prayer, keeping you focused on what the message just was given. Not be a tool of Satan's to pull it out of your heart and out of your mind. People don't realize how busy the devil is. Praying John Hyde said, the devil and his forces are the busiest 1 hour before church and immediately during and 1 hour after the sermon's been given to pull that message out of your heart. And he'll use everyone from the minister down to a crying baby to do so. Those are his words, not mine. But I've actually seen it happen. People who have good hearts, not realizing how easily they were used. Prayer is needed 1 hour before the sermon, during the sermon, and prayer 1 hour after the sermon. For each person, the minister, and each person that heard the sermon. You have time to pray. If you turn that television set on, you have time to pray. Don't kid yourself. You don't love God if you don't spend time with him. And the more time you spend with him, the more you love him. The least amount of time that you spend with him, the least amount that you love him. It's up to you. I don't make the judgment call. You do by your choices. The ones that you love the most, the things that you love the most, are what you will spend the most time with. Do you really, really love God? Do you talk with him? Do you, out of respect, sit and listen and ask him to talk to you? Do you listen to the Holy Spirit's prompting? Are you relevant to the Lord? Things to think about.